This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 5th day of December in the year 2023. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. The U.S. government continues to pay close attention to the Guyana-Venezuela border controversy. And according to U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller, the border issue cannot be settled by any referendum. During a U.S. State Department press conference in Washington on Monday, Mr. Miller said there should be a peaceful resolution to the controversy.
I will say that we support a peaceful resolution of the border dispute between Venezuela and Guyana. The 1899 award determined the land boundary between Venezuela and Guyana should be respected unless or until the parties come to a new agreement or a competent legal body decides otherwise. So we would urge Venezuela and Guyana to continue to seek a peaceful resolution of their dispute. This is not something that will be settled by a referendum.
Just last week, the U.S. National Security Advisor was briefed on the border controversy and the Venezuelan referendum by the former Secretary Robert Posada. The U.S. has been steadfast in its support of Guyana, repeatedly making it clear that the 1899 arbitral award that established the border be respected. Last week, U.S. Ambassador to Guyana Nico Theriot called on the Nicolas Maduro administration in Venezuela to respect Guyana's territorial integrity and its borders. She said the U.S. has not shifted its position on the validity of the 1899 arbitral award, which established a boundary between Guyana and Venezuela.
We support and respect the 1899 arbitral award that established the current boundaries of Guyana. And we believe that they should be respected until they are determined to be different by an international body such as the ICJ. So we support the current territorial sovereignty of Guyana and we call upon anything to any.
In a show of support for Guyana amid the rising tension, the Assistant U.S. Secretary of State, Brian Nicholas, back in September said efforts to infringe upon Guyana's sovereignty are unacceptable. More news coming up in just a moment.
'Twas the start of GTT Christmas and all through the land. Not a smartphone was silent, all buzzing in hand. The stockings were hung by the modem with care, in hopes that GTT prizes would soon be here. They say top up a grand or activate a data plan and just find the letters to GTT Xmas in the land. Plus, pay your bills on time, don't be a Grinch, and you could be a winner of the GTT Mega Million.
Oh my lord! I just love to shop in this store. My customers, them gonna love all these things. So many different things in one place. Household items, electronics, toys, stationery, confectionery, exercise equipment, shoes and clothes for men, women and children, school things, costume, jewelry, perfume, makeup. Oh, look the makeup!
Giftland Office Max, Guyana's favorite department store.
Your time to win big. The Massey Store's Christmas jackpot promotion is back and bigger than before. Spend $5,000 at any Massey Stores to be the lucky winner of a brand new MGZS and fantastic weekly store prizes from now until January 31st, 2024. What are you waiting for? Head to your nearest Massey Stores to shop now. See our Facebook and Instagram pages for more details. Massey Stores, our family serving your family.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Bust the flavors. We're full of flavors. Bust the flavors that me crave for. We're full of flavors. Tell your neighbors about the bust the flavors. Grab a bust the flavors. Yeah, thirst buster. Grab a buster. Bust the flavor, taste the savor. Bust the flavors. Bust the flavors.
Vice President Jagdeo has declared that Venezuela's referendum vote to claim Guyana's Essequibo region was a resounding failure for the Nicolas Maduro administration, as the majority of voters stayed away from the vote. While the Venezuelan government has claimed that close to 10 million people voted in the referendum, independent media observers have indicated that the number was much lower, and more than 80% of voters did not participate at all in the referendum. During an interview with BBC News in Dubai, Vice President Jagdeo, who was attending the climate change conference, said a yes vote on the referendum was not surprising, but the entire referendum turned out to be a failure for the Venezuelan government.
So everyone in the world expected once the referendum was held that they would have a yes vote. But we believe it's a resounding failure for the Maduro government, considering only half of the total eligible voters turned out, and then of the half that turned out, not 100% voted in favor of a yes vote. So less than half of the eligible voters voted in favor of the issues, the questions posed there. So it's a defeat, we believe, for Maduro.
The vice president explained further that Latin American news agencies that followed the vote reported a much lower turnout. He said the Electoral Council in Venezuela appears to have rigged the figures of the turnout. According to Vice President Jagdeo, the entire world is in support of Guyana.
That even with the rigging of the figures and turnout figures, they still didn't have half of the eligible voters on an issue that Venezuela has over the past 50 years been saying to their people that Essequibo belongs to them. So it's a predictable outcome, but the entire world is in support of Guyana on this matter.
Meanwhile, President Irfan Ali appeared on CBS News this morning and also spoke about the Venezuela controversy, making it clear that Guyana will continue to respect international law.
Borders were settled in 1899. Venezuela and then British Guyana participated fully in the settlement of this border. They both agreed on the border. The border was then enacted in Venezuela, local laws, and also stamps were produced with the borders as it exists today. When we were about to get independence, Venezuela raised a controversy and the Geneva Agreement was entered into. In that agreement, it provided that if the controversy could not have been settled between the parties, then the United Nations Secretary General would determine the mechanism to settle that. And the mechanism that was determined by the United Nations Secretary General was the ICJ. And that is where we believe this matter must be settled. But as you rightfully said, Venezuela is faced with many challenges, political challenges, democratic challenges, and challenges within its society itself. Many believe that this is a distraction to what obtains in Venezuela now. But we are taking this very seriously because of the narrative that is coming out of Venezuela, the threat that comes out of Venezuela.
Mr. Jagdeo also said the International Court of Justice has already made a definitive ruling which blocks Venezuela from taking any action on the Essequibo region. The government of Guyana continues to engage its international partners on the border controversy and the aggression from Caracas. The Guyana military remains on high alert, with additional troops being dispatched to bordering locations. Guyana's Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Senior Counsel Anil Nandlal, has indicated that in the absence of substantial evidence to support its claim, Venezuela will never be able to seize control of Guyana's territory under international law. The Attorney General, while speaking at a symposium hosted by the Bar Association of Guyana on Monday, said to date, Venezuela has been unable to provide substantial evidence to support its claim that the 1899 arbitral award, which established the boundary between the two countries, is invalid.
Absolutely not a scintilla of evidence that can stand up in a court of municipal law, more so international law, has been produced to impugn, to invalidate, or to even shake the legal foundation of the arbitral award. None at all. If Venezuela is to get away with this gimmick, it will bring into question, or it will allow for dozens of international disputes similarly resolved, involving borders, involving many other international questions that have been resolved by arbitration and by conciliation, by mediation, and other peaceful method of resolving disputes. Countries can now reopen them on some flimsy allegation similar to what Venezuela is making. International law, the international legal process will never countenance Venezuela's contention and allow it to succeed.
According to the Attorney General, history would assure that the Essequibo region for more than a century was controlled by the Dutch and not the Spanish, and had existed long before Venezuela was even birthed. History, he said, is on Guyana's side.
Venezuela's claim cannot be supported and is not supported by recorded history. It is not supported by international law. It is not supported by international diplomacy and the international legal process. The recorded history of our country and of South America vividly illustrates that Essequibo, the alleged disputed territory, was never under Spanish influence.
And head of the Department of Law at the University of Guyana, Attorney Kim Kai-Thomas, who formed part of the panel last evening, said Venezuela's inability to establish its case before the International Court of Justice has caused it to resort to the non-binding consultative referendum. Kai-Thomas said with the referendum now concluded, the regional and international communities should heap pressure on Venezuela to resolve the controversy through the courts.
I still have a strong belief that this matter could be resolved through diplomacy. I still believe so. I believe that the international bodies, the countries who have weight, CARICOM, they must all put pressure on the leadership of the country. Pressure needs to be placed on the leadership of the country because states have an obligation to comply with the principles of international law. And what we see happening here is a state going on a frolic of its own. And there are dire consequences to that.
Meanwhile, former Speaker of the National Assembly, Senior Counsel Ralph Ramkaran echoed similar sentiments. The International Court of Justice has ordered Venezuela to refrain from taking any action that could disrupt the status quo in the Essequibo region, regardless of the outcome of its referendum. CARICOM and the OAS are among regional bodies that have called on Venezuela to respect the decision of the court, as they underscore the importance of maintaining the region as a region of peace. Law enforcement agents in Guyana and Canada are probing the discovery of more than 50 pounds of cocaine in an untagged suitcase that arrived in Canada aboard a Caribbean Airlines flight from Guyana. Law enforcement agents in Trinidad and Tobago are also probing the incident, since the flight to Toronto originated in that country. According to sources familiar with the investigations, the Canadian authorities found the untagged suitcase at the Pearson International Airport last Thursday in Toronto, after it was offloaded from a Caribbean Airlines flight. While the bag was not tagged with the airline's baggage tag, it did carry the name of a passenger who had traveled from Guyana more than a week before the discovery. Investigators are now trying to figure out whether the cocaine-laden suitcase was loaded onto the aircraft in Guyana or in Trinidad and Tobago. There is also strong suspicion that it was loaded onto the plane in Guyana after the flight arrived here from Trinidad for its onward journey to Canada. Investigators have reviewed surveillance video recordings and have discovered that the suitcase never went through the check-in area at the Chetyjagan Airport. It is now suspected that the suitcase might have been taken directly to the tarmac through a breach of security. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit is leading the local investigations and has taken 4 Cheddi-Jagan airport staffers into custody, while other airport and airline staffers are being questioned. A source close to the probe told News Source that nothing other than the cocaine was discovered in the suitcase with no name tags.
This is my country, Guyana.
It is 83,000 square miles and made up of 3 counties: Berbice, Demerara, and Essequibo.
Essequibo is the largest county
and rich in many natural resources.
Venezuela is claiming Essequibo.
Venezuela knows that the border controversy with Guyana was settled.
Yet it continues to claim Essequibo. Venezuela must keep its hands off Essequibo.
All of it belongs to Guyana and all Guyanese.
Our motherland today must be that for our future.
For we are the future. Essequibo is ours!
Two police constables who have been described by the Ghana Police Force as rogue cops are facing charges of conspiracy to commit robbery on the arms. In a statement today, the Ghana Police Force announced the arrest of Constables Julian Smart and Winston Williams. According to the police, following a report of a robbery committed on a Chinese national who was relieved of $8 million in cash, the investigation revealed that the 2 police constables both conspired with the principal offenders to rob the victim of his property. The police said the detectives who are probing the case are in possession of evidence showing Constable Smart taking the suspects to the crime scene. And after the robbery was committed, the 2 policemen who were in uniform on motorcycle duties were captured on camera, escorting the robbery suspects to the Rasville community. Both ranks were promptly arrested and questioned by investigators. The police said while efforts are ongoing to arrest the principal offenders. Police legal advisor Mandel Moore advised the force that based on the facts, there is sufficient evidence to charge the 2 police constables jointly with the offense of conspiracy to commit a felony. The 2 constables have since been interdicted from duty. Let's tell you now that Guyana's economy continues to grow at an extremely fast rate, according to the International Monetary Fund. In its latest report, the IMF said the country's economy has tripled in size since the start of oil extraction just over 3 years ago. With oil production ramping up offshore, Guyana saw the highest real GDP growth in the world last year, recording a staggering 62.3% growth rate. According to the IMF, Guyana's oil reserves per capita are one of the highest in the world, and that going forward, oil production will continue to expand rapidly as 4 new oil fields will come on stream by the end of 2028. The IMF said sustained real non-oil GDP growth is also expected as the government continues to invest in human capital, lower energy costs, and to build infrastructure. The IMF said that the country's real GDP is expected to grow by 38.4% at the end of this year and on average of 20% during the next 4 years. On the upside, further oil discoveries would continue to improve Guyana's long-term economic prospects, and the construction boom would support higher short-term growth than expected, the IMF noted. According to the international body, it is projecting that substantial savings will accumulate in the Natural Resource Fund in the medium term, and that the annual transfers from the oil fund to the budget will finance most of the increase in public capital spending to meet developmental needs. The very favorable prospects are accompanied by a balanced risk, the report noted. Some downside risk, according to the IMF, include highly volatile commodity prices and adverse climate shocks, as well as governance concerns which could negatively impact the economy. The UNICEF Deputy Representative for Guyana and Suriname, Nicholas Prawn, today said Guyana is making significant strides in fostering good mental health and well-being among the population. In his address at the 3rd Annual Mental Health and Wellbeing Conference at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, the UNICEF Deputy Representative said Guyana has implemented a series of programs and projects aimed at tackling mental health.
Is that Guyana is definitely on the right track to tackling mental health and well-being at the early onset, at the school level. And acting early is one of the best ways to tackle poor mental health.
He said together with UNICEF and the Pan American Health Organization, the government of Guyana has rolled out a number of school-based programs targeting children and adolescents.
This year, we have invested in several initiatives to help children realize their rights to good mental health and well-being in Guyana. In collaboration with PAHO, WHO, and the Ministry of Health, we launched a joint program on mental health and psychosocial well-being and the development of children and adolescents. And Guyana is actually one of the pilot countries of this global initiative.
Last October, the government, through the Ministry of Health's Adolescent Health Unit and with support from UNICEF, launched the Let's Talk Green Bench initiative in schools, which is aimed at promoting mental health and well-being among children and adolescents. UNICEF is also partnering with the University of Guyana to roll out a number of other programs. The UNICEF official said come next year, UNICEF will be gathering available data to support the development of a comprehensive adolescent mental health plan, which will be used to guide the implementation of further interventions, adding that these programs are critical to achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Meanwhile, advisor to the Minister of Health, Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, said while the country's mental health budget remains relatively small, it has grown over the years. He said the government has been injecting funds into programs on the various ministries to address mental health related issues.
For the first time, there's measurable amount of numbers of social workers in school. We're not where we want to be. But for the first time, we have that.
Dr. Ramsamy, who is a former health minister, said after more than 2 decades, Guyana passed a modern mental health protection and promotion law, prioritizing the rights of mental health patients in the country.
Guyana was able, after a 20 years drafting exercise, to introduce a new mental health legislation that in fact promotes community-based mental health approach, that promote mental wellness, and that downplayed and removed institutionalization as the major mental health approach. The law was also complemented with another law, which is the Suicide Prevention Act, which decriminalized suicide.
The Mental Health Protection and Promotion Bill repealed the Mental Health Ordinances of 1930. Over the next 3 days, the conference will see health experts discussing mental health and well-being issues with the hope of influencing local policies on the matter.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, another important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guy Oil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
Food Max Supermarket, located on the ground floor of the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Food Max and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Food Max, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Look who's in the mix now. The new Buster Soda Water. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 artificial flavors. 100% refreshing. Taste Buster Soda Water today. Buster Soda Water. Now available for only $120.
With your regional and international news tonight, I'm Svetlana Marshall. In the region, a U.S. pastor accused of sexually exploiting children from Venezuela and Cuba was sentenced Monday to 15 years in federal prison. Corey Hertel, 40, pled guilty in August to 1 count of attempted sexual exploitation of a child. The church where Hertel served, Seventh-day Adventist Church in Green Bay, contacted the FBI in May to report that it had received information that he was trading sexually explicit videos with a 15-year-old in Venezuela, according to court documents. The pastor acknowledged that he met the child begging on the streets in Ecuador and kept in touch with him after he and his mother returned to his native Venezuela and exchanged sexually explicit videos with each other, according to prosecutors and court documents. Investigators also learned that the pastor was allegedly exchanging sexually explicit videos with 2 children in Cuba. He was in a sexual relationship with one of the children and was sending money to the other, according to prosecutors. Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Browne has been awarded by the Global Center of Mobility for being a champion on sea level rise. Browne received the award from the climate envoy of the President of the United Nations General Assembly and Managing Director of the Global Center for Climate Mobility on Saturday while attending a side panel at the 2023 United Nations Climate Change Conference COP28 in Dubai. The office of the Prime Minister highlighted that Browne has been a leading voice in the climate fight as he helped champion the charge of the Commission of Small Island States on Climate Change and International Law in its quest for climate justice. Prior to receiving his award, Browne told attendees time is running out for global action to be taken to save small developing nations from the ravages of climate change. And finally tonight, international news. There is a huge risk of terrorist attacks in the European Union over the coming holiday season, a senior EU official has said. According to the BBC, European Home Affairs Commission Ylva Jonasson said the polarization in society caused by the Israel-Hamas war was increasing the risk of violence. Her remarks came days after a terrorist was fatally stabbed in Paris. The EU was making an additional 30 million euros available for additional security, Ms. Jonasson said. She did not specify whether there was any specific information which had led to the warning. A similar warning came from German Interior Minister who told reporters the EU had to keep a close eye on threats and propaganda, as there was a high risk of further emotionalization and radicalization of violent Islamist perpetrators. Many European countries have seen a surge in hate crimes since Hamas gunmen attacked Israeli communities, leaving about 1,200 people dead and many others held hostage in Gaza. Israel's invasion of Gaza has since left more than 15,000 people dead, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.